bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. Tonight, it is Thursday, December 8th, 2022. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. And we are going to do a deep dive into the Fermi Paradox. And this is important for a lot of reasons. And this is going to be in-depth. It's going to be comprehensive. No illustrations, just talk. There's not a whole lot, by the way, out there to represent what the Fermi Paradox is. I could show what images of flying saucers and starships and planets and stuff, but that doesn't have a whole lot to do with anything. But it is important today more than ever before, because if we discuss the basics of the Fermi Paradox, the way it was brought out and discussed, going back to 1950, I'll talk about that in a second. How would that apply today in 2022 with everything else that is going on and how we have advanced in science, right? It's an interesting thing because, well, I would suggest, and I'm going to circle back to this many times tonight, that I don't think Enrico Fermi would ask the same question. So what is the Fermi Paradox? What am I talking about here? It is one of the most interesting subjects that I continually digest. I am constantly chewing on this and looking at all of the different filters and answers to the Fermi Paradox and how some of the great minds over the years and decades have thought about the Fermi Paradox and applied their thoughts to it. Now, Enrico Fermi was a physicist, and without going into all of his accomplishments, because that's just an entire show right there, but he's got laboratories and complexes and buildings named after him all around the world. And his knowledge and his vision advance science and advance this planet but by leaps. His contributions to science are things that just cannot be measured. But we talk about him all the time. And his name is associated with the paradox because of a conversation that happened back in the summer of 1950. And the story now, what is a legend and what is legendary, right? Well, go and look up those definitions, because it is stuff of legend today, this conversation with fellow physicist Edward Teller, right? Herbert York, and Emil Konopinski. Now, while at lunch in the cafeteria at Los Alamos, they were discussing what was going on around the country at that time, which was, this is 1950, a lot of UFO sightings. Okay, flying saucers everywhere. It was the headlines, it was the news, it was the radio, it was TV, it was magazines. And that was the conversation. So you get a bunch of scientists around the table in a cafeteria over lunch, and this is what is going to be talked about. And one of the things, and especially when you get physicists together, and back then, Einstein, well, one was still alive, but Einstein was the center of everything. And one of the biggest contributions that Einstein brought was E equals MC squared and the speed of light, and that nothing could travel faster than the speed of light. So these guys are sitting around the table discussing how these flying saucers were getting to Earth, and with the vast distances in space and how spread out things were just in our own Milky Way, that these flying saucers would have to be traveling faster than the speed of light, right? And this is the conversation. And as they sat there and talked, the conversation moved on to other topics. Flying saucers getting here, the sightings, the amount of things, and they talk about the size of the Milky Way and how many planets must be out there with the vast stars. And you got to remember, this is 1950, so the count of everything was off, and we will go back and visit all of that tonight many times. And so Fermi starts calculating, okay? And he's sitting there, and everybody was watching him, and he was thinking, he said, man, there's got to be hundreds of millions of civilizations out there. There has to be. And he blurts out, the legend goes, he yells out uncontrollably, but where is everybody? Right? Now, although the exact quote is uncertain, that's the Fermi Paradox. There's got to be vast life out there, but where is everybody? Right? There's got to be vast life. That's the paradox. It's got to be full of life, teeming with life. But where is everybody? Now, in the context that Fermi was probably thinking about, and again, we can't all get inside of his head, but he was thinking a little bit more logically, like a scientist. And it wasn't that, are we being visited? His thought process is communication, visiting us all the time, coming down, interstellar trade, relationships. That's what he was referring to. Not the sightings. The sightings is what spurred this blurting out of, but where is everybody? But he was thinking that we should have friendships, we should have relationships, we should know about these civilizations. They should be interested in us, like neighbors. So where is everybody? And now the reason why I say that he probably wouldn't say it today, or at least the same way, or with the same mindset, is we see things now. We see things now, and we know the conversations about UAPs and UFOs and videos and photographs and fast radio bursts and the Webb telescope and exoplanets and everything that we study today and know today and are investigating today and asking questions about today. They weren't anywhere near that back in 1950. So would Enrico today ask the same question? Probably not. Probably not. I think that the general agreement of scientists, and certainly the world population, but scientists in general, the big thinkers out there, especially of the hard sciences, understand the size of the universe now, the size of the Milky Way, and what chemistry is, and how the universe it builds itself, and how stars are created, and they know that life is everywhere. What we know today about amino acids and what is carried around on asteroids and everything else, and the possibility of panspermia and that we'll circle back to that too as well. This knowledge changes everything. And there was another part to this that the Fermi Paradox gets tied to all the time, and for good reason. But again, something that's a little bit outdated is the Drake equation. So when we look at that and Frank Drake, the theory, what is the Drake equation? Well, let's break this down a little bit. In a nutshell, the Drake equation are a collection of theories and principles that are built into the Drake equation, which closely relate back to the Fermi Paradox. The equation was formulated by Frank Drake back in 1961. Remember the conversation at Los Alamos with Ed Teller and Enrico Fermi? That was 1950. 11 years later, Frank Drake came out with this sequence, this algorithm, in an attempt to find a means to evaluate, right, and to insert numbers and projections that would be involved and help talk about the existence of alien life. And now, I'm not a physicist. I'm not a mathematician. Nah, I barely made it through geometry. Never went to geometry 2. Algebra 1 was tough. Algebra 2 was tougher. Anyway, math and I, no. But the equation, and I'm going to go through this right now, and if I quote it wrong and if I don't speak like a physicist or a mathematician, you have to excuse me. But the equation as I read it is N equals R times FP times NE times FL times FI times FC equals L. All right? Now, times O. And now how does this break down? Well, N equals, right, the equation, N is the number of advanced civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. And N equals is the product of that algorithm, which breaks down like this. R, and I'm going to speak briefly about each one of these because so much of it is based on opinion and theory, right? So R is the rate of formation of stars in the galaxy. And how many stars are in the galaxy in 1950 versus the way we calculate things today and mapping out the Milky Way, all right? Okay. FP, the fraction of those stars with planetary systems. Now, if we stop right there, so you have R, the rate of formation of stars in the galaxy. Okay. And even that we are learning more and more about today versus 1950. This is all guesswork. But the fraction of those stars with planetary system. So notice fraction. So back then in 1961, they were thinking we may be the only star system in the Milky Way with planets. How many star systems out there have planets? You know, and they were thinking planets were rare. That's why FP is such a funky part of the Drake equation today, because now we know that every single star, every single one, has got at least one planet. That's what we base all of our numbers on today, right? So the number that they were plugging in back in 1961 into the Drake equation, today, that number is 1 trillion. It's a different number back then. So we'll circle back to that. Then we have NE, the number of planets per solar system with an environment suitable for organic life. Stop right there. That's 1961. Pure guesswork. Pure guesswork. And it's such a low number because the number of planets is really low. There was plenty of people that thought that maybe we were the only planets in the entire Milky Way. right? That we were all there is. So that's a funky part of this algorithm. Then we have FL, the fraction of those suitable planets where an organic life actually appears. And obviously today we're searching exoplanets with the Webb telescope, but that's FL, right? FI, the fraction of habitable planets where an intelligent life actually appears. Now, how do you even get to that number? How do you plug that into the equation? Then you have FC, the fraction of civilizations that reach the technological level whereby detectable signals may be dispatched. And L, the length of time that those civilizations dispatch their signals. Now, I'm going to be talking about all of this tonight, but especially those last four, if not the entire Drake equation, but the last four, totally opinion-based. Totally opinion-based. R, the rate of formation of stars in the galaxy. Today, we can come up with a pretty solid number for that. All right, that's a pretty solid. The number of planets per solar system with an environment suitable for organic life, the fraction of those stars of the planetary systems. Okay, so the first two, the first two, we can come up with pretty solid numbers now. All right, so really the second half of the equation has always been guesswork, but the numbers now don't really apply. Now, when this was all put together, 1961, and Frank Drake went around with this equation and lectured a lot, and people were very interested in it, and it was great. This was the first time where science applied something like this, and people were very interested in it. And Frank Drake, now the numbers changed over time, but the general number that he would come up with was 10,000. 10,000 civilizations out there, advanced civilizations that could contact Earth, right? 10,000. Frank and Carl Sagan worked on this quite a bit. And as they worked on this over the years, and plugged in different numbers, it will go down as far as 1,000 civilizations. And this is Frank and Carl working together. But if they change the numbers around in the algorithm, sometimes they reached a number of 100 million civilizations just in the Milky Way galaxy. Now, there's a couple of other things to think about here. When we look at, especially Los Alamos and what was going on in New Mexico at that time, you had von Neumann, another physicist from Hungary, and they were all from Hungary, by the way, it seems like. One of the things that would have changed, I think, Ed Teller's and Enrico Fermi's conversation is things like the tic-tac. All right. And what I mean by that is von Neumann talked about these self-replicating spaceships, space probes, starships, and that the best way to go and possibly colonize or grab knowledge from around the Milky Way and beyond that into other galaxies in the universe by mining and building. You would have a mothercraft. You would have these self-replicating spacecraft, and then would have this exponential growth. Right, that this would just blister out and very quickly. Because of the way that they would replicate and tap into asteroids and planets and build more of themselves, that an advanced civilization would take over the Milky Way in very short order. I'm talking about the Milky Way. And in theory, a self-replicating spacecraft, could be sent to a neighboring planetary system where it would gather raw materials, from asteroids, moons, and gas giants, et cetera, to constantly create replicas of itself. And this would be ongoing. And these replicas will be sent out again to other planetary systems. The original parent probe could then pursue its primary purpose within the star system. And they would have different missions applied to each one of these depending on what was being built. Maybe some are looking for water. Maybe some are looking for life. Maybe some are, studying DNA. Maybe looking for precious materials and raw materials, and so forth. And so this would continue, and then you would have this next advancement of this, which I think is another possibility here, which maybe some of these von Neumann probes would carry, say, the seeds of life, DNA. Maybe they store genetic patterns of life forms, their own life forms, and from their home world, right? And finding a habitable planet like Earth, for instance, boom, right? And the seeds of life, and that would continue out that way. Now, is that a possibility for Earth? Absolutely, it is. And when we look at Earth itself, and we look at the historical parts of sightings over the years, which not only go back millennia, but if we take some of the text in India or Iraq or Egypt, certainly China and Japan, and even North Central South America, and we look at the way that history has treated the subject, it seems that these cultures around the world, historically speaking, talk about star beings, talk about the heavens, talk about the knowledge, talking about things coming from the heavens, and certainly talk about craft and machines and so forth. That all the way through to today, with the sightings that we have that are going on right now as I speak, that is this the von Neumann concept, the von Neumann concept. And I suggest that it may be. And the other reason why this is such an important subject today versus where Enrico Fermi was with Ed Teller sitting at that table in 1950 in the cafeteria, they had no idea how quickly we would not only be on the moon, that 8 years later after that conversation in 1950, 1958, Sputnik, 57, Sputnik, Telstar, the United States, Russia, the space race, and how quickly we went and sent probes to the moon. Before we sent man to the moon, we sent probes to the moon. How quickly we sent stuff to Mars. And very quickly in the 1970s, we had Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 and Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11, sending them outside to an interstellar situation outside of our solar system. And if that's what we are doing, Surveyor and everything else, if that's what we were doing, isn't that exactly what von Neumann was talking about? And is that what is happening now here today? All right. So if we look at start to pick all of this apart and look at the considerations of these different filters and the way to try to answer these questions about where is everybody, it's a different context over the last 4 years. But when we look at the number one answer, I think, that applies directly to the Fermi paradox is that alien life is already here, Enrico. It's already here. It's been here. It's been here for a long time. Maybe we ourselves are alien and ET. And that's it. That's the overall. But I think that that's the easiest, most accepted answer from everybody. That, what do you mean? No. ET's already here. They've been here, and they are visiting here now. I think that is overall. We look at the recent polls. It's 35% of Americans believe ET is here and is visiting this planet. The number's a little lower over in Europe, just under 30%. And but that's a huge part of the population. So that is the one generally accepted answer that just negates and answers the question, right? Where is everybody? Well, everybody is already here. Now, what part of this is acknowledged, right? Because we have to look at that a couple of different ways just right there. Is there proof that ET is here? Well, I would say no. I mean, in the proof that even the members of this community want, where they want disclosure, and they want the governments and the military to step forward and say ET is here. They need that. Right? Well, that's what the rest of the world needs too as well. So is there an acknowledged part of this? And we're getting close. I mean, because of the conversations that we are having today and the number of planets and the number of sightings and the basic math and the size of the universe and the size of the Milky Way, that we know that that's it, that the universe is teeming with life. We know that. But is there the definitive side? Okay, so if we back this up, my own sighting, which I'm not going to go into, I've had many, but just the beer can alone, for me, is the same type of sighting that millions of people have had. Millions. I don't have it on film. I know what I saw. Now, I think it's ET, but do I know? I don't. I don't know. I have no idea what I saw. And that goes with, I don't have those answers. I'm looking for those answers. And everybody else is in the same position right now. Unless you are in the know, where it can be acknowledged. Right? So that's where we are. What is acknowledged and what is unacknowledged, and where is the real proof for the world? Now, the insiders and the projects that are going on and crashed retrievals and alien bodies and living aliens and dead aliens, I don't know about any of that. Nobody does. All right, that's where we are. But I think in a general sense, that question has been answered, that we are being visited every day. We will continue to be visited. There's stuff going on in our skies. And historically, cultures around the world have talked about it, have seen it. All right. Now, the next stage, if we go from alien life is already here, right? It's already here. That's the answer to it. And then we go to the other extreme, which is where it was until recently, that extraterrestrial life is rare or non-existent. Now, I have listened to physicists recently that say there's a good chance that we are all there is, that life is so rare and so special, and the circumstances behind how we got here with the moon and our distance from the sun and water and how everything happened, that to replicate this is the rarest of the rarest thing. And we may be all there is. And when I hear that, right, that extraterrestrial life is rare or non-existent, now this, it makes me angry, but it's not my opinion that matters. These are scientific minds, very smart physicists and PhDs and astrophysicists and astronomers that carry this mindset. I think it's shrinking, but no, I heard it in a conference, a live presentation, a big deal conference 4 months ago. I also saw it, these comments like this on TV series. So, yeah. And then if we take it to another extreme, which is that's extraterrestrial life. Life is rare. But then there's intelligence. So let's say life is not that rare. There is life out there. But what do we call life? What do we call life? Right? Microbial? Right? How rare is extraterrestrial intelligence? All right. Now it could be as simple as they're working with fire. Now, if fire is an important thing, because let's say the ocean's on Europa, right? There may be life in those oceans, right? Things swimming around, but without fire, you're not going to move on to an industrial complex. You're not going to be building things. So, but if you are above ground on terra firma and your species gets as far as fire, you will be dealing with the internet here very soon. It didn't take us very long, and exploring the universe and the galaxy that you're in. So extraterrestrial intelligence beyond, living in water, dolphins, right? Very smart creatures, but there's no fire there for dolphins. But if you are above ground and you have fire, that's extraterrestrial intelligence. And they're saying that, well, that may be even rarer still or completely non-existent. Another filter for the Fermi Paradox is that there is a periodic extinction, natural events, asteroid, right? Struck by a comet, solar flare, your star burps, something acts up and incinerates your planet. Something that is something that you didn't cause. Now, any star freaking out and changing, if we had anything within 50 light years of planet Earth and a star went supernova, we're done. As far away as that would be, we would be done. So, supernovas that are happening around the universe, and we see them all the time, and we measure things with that, distances and things. We can navigate the universe by supernovas. The idea of that and what is devastated around it and how it affects vast amounts of space in the universe, that's a natural event. It doesn't have to be the planet. It doesn't have to be tsunamis or whatever, or even a local solar storm or an asteroid. It could be something else like a supernova wiping out big chunks of the universe. But that would be a natural event. So even if you got a chance to advance, there could be something out of your control. And that could happen to Earth anytime. Anytime. So there's that. Then you have this. The intelligent alien species out there have not developed advanced technologies. Maybe there is something there that is just stopping the creative process. There is just something wrong in the DNA. There's something wrong with the brain. There's that. They are just going to stay where they are. And if we back up, 100 million years, and we look at planet Earth, and we had life here, but it was dinosaurs. And if that asteroid hadn't struck Earth 65 million years ago, does that mean would the dinosaurs over that 65 million years have developed advanced technologies? Would they be building radio telescopes today? Would they have a company like SpaceX? That's so how an intelligent species like, again, the octopus or dolphins, dogs, cats, monkeys, apes, right? Is that an intelligent species? Or how do we look at that? And what does an intelligent species do if left alone for vast time? Would they develop advanced technologies? That's another part of this entire thing. And the reason why that's so important is that chemistry is chemistry. Particles are particles, right? And they are only going to combine so many ways. And I talk about that a lot, but it's an important subject to address, in that life and amino acids and DNA, it's got to be everywhere. How much of it is like us, that develops like us? Probably a lot. But that doesn't mean that animal species are sentient, but they don't have what it takes to eventually develop advanced technologies. So how many planets out there have fish, have life? But that's as far as they have trees, they have grass, right? And how far is it going to go? That's an important part of this. And then the next filter, and I've got many to discuss, is it the nature of us to just destroy ourselves? We seem to be doing a good job of that. And I know that many of us picture Earth 500 million years from now, and how advanced and beautiful we're going to be, and how many dimensions we are going to move into, and we're going to be intelligent beings of light and stuff. Right. Okay. To get to that point, we can't destroy ourselves. Is it our nature to do that? To burn up natural resources, to overpopulate the planet and just run out of things, and the next thing you know, right, that we just war, whatever it may be, right, create another disease that escapes a laboratory, anything like that. We're smart, and then we create something that eventually destroys us. Is it our nature to do that? One of the things that I see humans, the evidence of this, is that no matter what, we take over a piece of land and we build a city till it's a town into a city, and we just overtake everything. Just overtake, right? And we just burn everything out and up and down, including ourselves. So is it just our nature to do that? Now, the other part, there's a yin and a yang. Is it the nature of intelligent life to destroy others? I'll stop right there and think about that for a second. We certainly don't have any issues starting wars, and destruction. Enrico Fermi, Teller, right? Oppenheimer, von Neumann, atomic bombs. And it's and built for a purpose and built for a reason, right? And tested not even knowing if there were physicists that feared that first atomic test would cause a chain reaction in the atmosphere that we couldn't stop and planet Earth would blow up. That was actually a consideration, but they did it anyway. So, is it the nature of us to destroy others? Yeah. So, with other civilizations out there is probably a good chunk that are good-natured, that want to be nice and be kind, and not be evasive and invasive and conquer and divide and take over and kill. But there are probably intelligent civilizations out there that don't have good intentions. And that may be part of the reason why we're not making friends with anybody, at least out in the open. Because those that want to do that are being destroyed by another civilization that's got other plans. Then we have this. When we talk about contact, when we talk about SETI, and we talk about where we are today, maybe civilizations only broadcast detectable signals for a brief period of time, because that's exactly what we've gone through. We, here on Earth, have only broadcast. We talk about the movie Contact. It's a very important point to bring up. We have only been broadcasting here on Earth for about 150 years. Go back to 1880, Marconi, radio signals, Tesla. And that was actually some of the biggest stuff. And then what happened in 1910, 1920, 1930, radio towers, broadcasting huge amounts of watts that were blasting out into space. So there's that. And then slowly 1970 comes around, 1975, cable TV, satellite signals broadcasting. And instead of these huge antennas, now we've got cable carrying TV signals. And today, radio signals are very weak. Here we are in 2022. What is being broadcast off of this planet now? Not much. And eventually, it is all going to be optical. Yeah. And that's just the way that it is. We're receiving you're watching me right now on a cable, on a wire, on the internet. Wi-Fi is not reaching out into space. It barely goes from room to room in your house. So that's a 150-year window. That's it. 150 years. So going out into space, somebody would have to be listening and have the ability to listen to look for that over a 150-year period. Anything before, anything after, they're going to miss it. And we are in the same position. So we would have to be listening at the right moment, at the right time, from a star that is 50 million light years away. 50 million. So 50 million years it takes for those signals to get here. And it's just a 150-year pocket of information coming across the Milky Way, let alone the universe. So we would have to be listening at that exact time. And if we're not, or if it misses Earth or whatever, it's over. So that's it. And the reason why that is such an obvious thing is that's the way we are doing it here. So yeah, SETI is important. And it does need to be looking at certain things. And I think that Webb doing what it's doing will tell SETI, this planet looks interesting. Let's focus over here. And then we move all the radio antennas over and point it at a specific SAR system. And maybe we can get lucky and pick up that pocket of 150 years of information in a 50 million light year stream. But that's where we are. And so when we look at the movie Contact, and that was Vega, that was 1937. That was the 1936 or whatever, the Olympic Games. That was broadcast, one of the first television broadcasts that went out, and then turned around and got sent back to us. That concept is accurate. That idea is accurate. But it only worked, and especially for the movie Contact, because Vega is not that far away. Right? Okay. So there's that. And then what if the signals that are coming back to us are just too alien, that we don't know what we're looking for? So there may be tons of life out there, and they may be broadcasting, but it's something that we can't see or we can't pick up. We look at, it's got to be the frequency of hydrogen. That would be, okay, all right. And that E.T., if he's smart, they know to broadcast on these certain frequencies, and it's a universal thing. And okay, all right, that's fine. But that broadcast would have to be in the same time scale. It would have to be in something that can be received by us. That was one of the biggest mistakes in Contact, was that was a TV carrier signal, and that they buried the secondary signal alongside the carrier signal. ET would have to understand what that is to unscramble it and see it, right? Okay. Now, were they just trading signals? Here's the thing. When we talk about alphabets and languages and something that is being sent back and forth, they may be sending something that they think we should understand, but we don't. And we don't even see it. It's so alien to us that we don't even know that it's there. And it could be going on all over the place. Same thing with us going in the other direction. You would have to understand what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what you are going for, just to unscramble it and to know. So maybe it's just something that we don't understand. We don't see. It's in a frequency we don't get. It's in a color we don't get. It's in a time scale. Maybe they are just in a different time than we are. Something to think about. Now, here's the other part, moving on. Maybe, where is everybody? Maybe the thought of von Neumann and colonizing the Milky Way and occupying other star system, maybe it's not the norm. Just maybe. Now, we haven't gotten off of this planet to go interstellar. We're not colonizing another star system. We're trying to get to Mars. We've barely got to the moon. So we're not at that stage. So maybe it's just not the norm, even though we have the technology to broadcast into sea and to go into deep space and the web, and we are building rockets and we have satellites and we, got a pretty good grip. But that doesn't mean that we are colonizing. Right? And terraforming and figuring all of that out. No, we're not there. So just maybe it's not the norm. And if you go to the other part of that, the other extreme, with that is maybe species out there don't want to colonize. Maybe they want to stay to themselves. Yeah. Now, maybe alien species only want to settle a part of the galaxy, right? And they don't have a need to expand out. And they're on the other side of the Milky Way, and they've got a quarter of it dialed, but that's as far as they want to go. You know, there is a thing about resources and expansion, and if you've got to have children to expand, and everything else, and you have to have a rate of expansion to do all of that. Before we talk about, cloning embryos in jars to go and populate planets, which may be some of the ideas out there, but just maybe they've gone as far as they want to go. They don't need to go any further, and it's another part of the Milky Way. That's another answer here, and here's another part where we are looking at exoplanets, but maybe they just left those planets. We're going to leave Earth one day. We're going to leave Earth. We've discovered another exoplanet today. I think they call it the Hell Planet, right? It does a 17.5-hour orbit its year of its sun. And is there life on there? No, there's not. Eventually, that's going to be Earth. We're not going to be orbiting the sun in 17 hours, but it's going to be a hell planet here. And we have to leave before then. And that's if we survive asteroids and diseases and natural disasters and solar storms and alien invasion. We have to survive all of that. And if we get to that point, we will have to eventually leave this planet too and leave it behind, because when the sun starts going through its changes, immediately our atmosphere is going to burn off and blow away. The oceans are going to evaporate. We're going to have just molten lava and volcanoes all over this planet. The surface temperature is going to be 2,000 degrees. We're not going to be here. We're going to be gone. So we're looking at all of these exoplanets, and maybe on a lot of these, the species don't live there anymore. Right? And if we go to that extreme, maybe after going through that, we may do the same thing. Maybe alien species out there are just isolating themselves from the outside world, that they had enough. They had enough, and now they just want to go to the mountain and live by themselves. We do that here. So just maybe they don't want to reach out. They don't want to make contact. Think of the movie Valerian and the planet Mu. Beautiful planet. Amazing. Just got along with nature. Very, very advanced species. They weren't on spaceships. They weren't leaving the planet. They didn't care. They were keeping to themselves. And just maybe that could be a big chunk of the universe too. So something to think about. And here's another thing. When we talk about Dyson spheres, before I get to the break, I want to get this point in. We talk about Dyson spheres and these technical signatures. Well, the amount of resources on planet Earth to build a starship out in space and to head out, or to build a Dyson sphere, to tap into our sun and wrap her. Where does all of those materials come from? Where do they come from? I would say that there's a lack of resources for something like that. And just in our stars, we've got asteroids. We can go to the asteroid belt. That's all got to get tapped into, and it's a large amount. We look at the asteroid belt. We would have to, tap into Jupiter for everything that's there to go and build a Dyson sphere. So to look out at, now I'm not trying to discount the possibilities of all of this, but when we talk about why isn't von Neumann and why don't we see ET taking over the Milky Way? We should see this exponentially, just boom, 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 and take. Maybe there's just a lack of resources needed to physically spread throughout the galaxy like that. And that's another that I have often wondered and argued about just that very point. Now, it sounds good on paper and it works in the math. And if this happens and 1 plus 2 is 3, and then it's 6, and then it's 12, and the next thing you know, in 100 years, they've taken over 1 million planets. No, it takes people and resources to do all of that. So the reason why we're not seeing it is because maybe there isn't the grand ability to replicate and tap into all of these resources to get this done. It's a physically challenging and logistical nightmare. That's right. Let's take our break right here. This is my 2-hour special on the Fermi Paradox. I'll be right back. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Check out Billy Carson's Forbidden Knowledge. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, where you can get access to over 6,000 videos, movies, TV series, exclusive documentaries like The Black Knight Satellite. You can do it all for just $7.77 per month or $77 per year after the 3-day trial, which is also totally free to check out. It's all simple to do. Billy Carson is the best. It's simple. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's the number 4BK. I will be hosting and emceeing the Conscious Life Expo this February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton right here in Los Angeles, California. 200 speakers, including Linda Moulton Howe, Bashar, Deborah King, George Norrie, Daniel Sheehan, Scott Walter Johnstone, and David Wolf. Over 200 vendors, special events. This is the biggest event of its kind on planet Earth. You've got to come and hang out with all of us. Tickets and info at ConsciousLifeExpo.com. The links are below. On Saturday, April 1st, that's right, April Fool's Day, 2023, I will be hosting the Parapod Festival at the Hyatt Regency right here in Valencia, California. It's a live one-day podcast awards. It's a film festival. It's a full-on media event. We're going to have sky watching. There's going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Linda Moulton Howe. Right now, you can submit your podcast, your film, your TV series, any of your paranormal media for consideration. You can do all of that on the links below. For info and tickets, go to parapodfilmfest.com. That's parapodfilmfest.com. April 7th through the 14th, 2023, I'll be hosting and presenting on the Hidden Secrets Seminar at Sea Cruise. From Los Angeles to the Mexican Riviera on the Navigator of the Seas. That's right, up top, a giant water slide. You've got to check out the Navigator of the Seas. It's amazing. We've got Scott Walter, Adam Apollo, Nick Pope, Brad Olson, Vivian Chauvet, Jason Shirka, Robert Grant, Ruben Langdon, and another 12 amazing speakers and presenters. It's all simple to do. Just visit divinetravels.com/Hidden Secrets 2023. You know you want to go on a cruise with me. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, I'm doing a special on the Fermi Paradox. And the Fermi Paradox itself, I'll do a little bit of a recap here. The Fermi Paradox comes from a conversation in 1950 at Los Alamos. And a group of physicists, Enrico Fermi was one of them. Edward Teller was at the table too. They were talking about flying saucers and what was going on around the country at that time. There was nothing but UFOs being seen in the skies, and it was everywhere. It was in the media. It was with the military. Radio programs, movies started to come out about this, and there was a general hysteria around the country at that time. And so physicists are going to do what they do. They started talking about the size of the universe and how many stars were out there, and how many would have planets. And then if the Milky Way was so big, then we're looking at potentially millions of civilizations, and that's where they took the conversation. And Enrico started calculating in his head, and then just blurted out, well, where is everybody then? If that's the case, where is everybody? And it was said in a context that we should have made friends, right? That ET should be visiting us all the time, and we should have relationships and everything else. Not seeing stuff in the skies, but it should be different. There should be a community here, an interstellar community. So where is everybody? And that is the Fermi Paradox. Fermi Paradox has been discussed. One of the things, over and over again, and I love it when two great minds sit down and start talking, a couple of physicists, a couple of scientists, a couple of philosophers, whatever. And eventually they will swing the conversation around to the Fermi Paradox, because it's a thought experiment that is endless. It's absolutely infinite. And once you start to have an idea and to get a thought out, you are thinking about one civilization, right? And just one thing. But there has to be so many different, various types of life forms out there that live in different frequencies and time scales, and different ideas of the way that they want to live life. It varies so much that the Fermi Paradox then just expands and expands and expands and expands. I've got so many books on the Fermi Paradox that break this down into hundreds of different filters, where they can go in, each author or scientist, thinker, can go into any direction and just go with that. And Isaac Arthur does it really, really well. He breaks it down all the time, and you can go just in one direction and spend so much time expanding on that filter and expanding on that filter and expanding on that filter. I've just laid out 15 or 20 filters right now off the top of my head, just setting up the show tonight, and each one is a whole show in of itself, every single one. And I just talked about, so that's the Fermi Paradox in a nutshell. And one of the things that I had mentioned earlier, which is a very important concept to understand and to grasp. Here on Earth, how does a civilization grow? Where do they get to a technical level? Where do they go from the wheel, to space travel? And what is involved in the middle of all of that, in that growth, and to physically advance on a technical scale? Well, you're going to go through certain things, and we are assuming that other life out there must do it pretty much the same way. And that is, you're going to go from fire to eventually get to electricity, electromagnetism and radio waves and things in transmission, telephones, speakers, stereo systems, audio, music, and then digital transmissions. And so for us, we went through that radio phase, the television signal phase, for about 100 years. We're phasing out of it very, very, very quickly. But let's stay right there for a second. So here we are in 2022. We've had the ability to detect and to listen to radio and television signals for only 100 years. That's it. So another distant civilization out there that is at our level, that is broadcasting these signals, if they did it 1,000 years before us, those signals go past us. We weren't around to detect it. We didn't have the ability. What if they're 1 million years in front of us? 1 million years behind us? You only have that ability to detect it for a very short period of time, and that's when they are being broadcast. It is such a fundamental part of all of this about where are they, right? Well, we have to be at the right place at the right time, pointing at the right star at the right moment to magically detect something. For another planet out there to look at ours, so we're looking the other way in with the Webb telescope, and we're looking at something that's 10 light years away. All right, that's really close. 20 light years away, 30 light years away, 40 light years away. That would be a miracle to find life or a planet that could support life. Now, if we go and we find something that is 1,000 light years away, 1,000 light years, that's how long light takes to get here, 1,000 years, and we detect a techno signature, does that mean that there is still life there? By the time, think about this, it would be the same thing in looking at Earth. So you spot Earth and you're 1,000 light years away, and you spot Earth and you're looking at Earth 1,000 years ago. Do you get a techno signature? What do you see? Now, you're going to have carbon dioxide. You're going to have hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor. You're going to have certain and they may, whoa, that looks pretty good. But do they see cities lighting up at night? Do they see a techno signature? Do they see the industrial revolution? None of it. Do they see pollution? They don't see any of that. Right? So they would have to be pointing at Earth at the right time to pick something up. And it's the same thing going in the other direction. So when we look at Earth, and we think about all of this. Oh, by the way, at this point, before I wrap this up, I do want to take the opportunity to look at the chat room and address some of your questions and some of your thoughts. And I'll try to squeeze that in before the end of the show. And if you do have a question, I just put it in all caps from this point out. I did notice that there were literally, I think, 2,000 comments already in the chat room tonight. So I can't go backwards, but I can certainly go forwards from here. I meant to mention that at the top of the show. Okay, so it's this window of opportunity, right? So the other part with this, when we look at that part of this, that maybe Enrico's question would be answered that just maybe it's cheaper and easier to transfer information. Yeah. Than to explore physically. Right? Maybe a civilization may be trying to reach out to us with a signal, with information, because it's easier to do that, certainly cheaper to do that, and doesn't require resources. You're only pointing an antenna and sending something out. And maybe that would be easier, but we haven't been listening properly, and we don't have the ability to go and do that. But I think that is an absolute answer, to this, that we don't understand the technology of ET, and we haven't been listening the right way. that the signals are there. They're reaching out. They've sent the probes out. They see where we are technically, and they know, right? They can see the satellites orbiting Earth, so they know where we're at, but we don't have a way to communicate. We don't have a way to listen to them, right? And now here's the other part. If we're going to stay on that mindset, maybe, just maybe, we haven't listened long enough, right? Maybe we have to sit and just ride this out for a little longer if it is a transfer of information that's going to be digital. We haven't done it long enough. The other argument, we're going to spend a lot of time on this, that just maybe intelligent life is too far away. Now, this is an easy argument to present. When you go and you look at the one basic of the basics, and that is the universe itself, the observable universe, is 95 billion light years across. Now, that is so big. I mean, the universe is a big place, and that is, and you start doing the conversion of that into miles or astronomical units, it is crazy big. So that's the argument. It's just space is too big. Stars are too far apart, right? It's just too big. It's too big. Intelligent life is there, but it's just too far away. The counter to that is not only faster than light travel, and that may not even be enough, but there's got to be a simpler way to get it all done. Not only for ET, but for us too as well. Because the answer to going out and exploring something, and our closest star system, Proxima Centauri, 4.5 light years away. And so just with conventional engines that we have right now, our analog way of doing things, we're talking about 75,000 years just to go 4.5 light years away. 75,000 years. So that's not an answer for us. That it's not. So we would have to overcome that. And ET, and we're going to figure out a way to get it done because we have to. When we blow this popsicle stand, and we eventually will, we're not going to pick a star and one, an exoplanet that is identical to Earth, and it's got a biosphere. It's identical, and we see that it's got grass and trees, and it's got life, and it's got water, and it's the right temperature, and it's everything else. But it's 40 light years away, 50 light years away. So we're going to be on a starship, conventional, burning fossil fuels, right? A Roman candle for 5 million years to get there? Well, no. We're going to have to overcome that. We're going to have to figure that out. And ET has already figured that out. And will we figure that out in 1,000 years? Yeah, we probably will. Will we figure it out in 500 years? Probably. But if the civilization out there is 1 million years ahead of us, they've already got that dialed. So that's where the extraterrestrial civilization that is intelligent is just too far away argument doesn't work, and it doesn't hold water. If they're out there and they're 50,000 years ahead of us, 100,000 years ahead of us, they've already got that figured out, right? They're not traveling faster than the speed of light. They're traveling at the speed of now, and they figured it out. And it's probably fairly simple. It's probably easy. Now, some of the evidence that we have today, when somebody says, "Jimmy, where's this idea come from? Where's the proof of this?" Just the comments of the data that we have from the tic tac going from 80,000 feet, 90,000 feet to sea level in a fraction of a second? Just that right there. What and wait a minute, that could be this, it could be that. Okay, all right. But it stopped that kind of inertia, that physical transfer, that distance over that speed, and stopping without having a concussive tsunami wave flooding the west coast of the United States, probably going all the way to New York. That didn't happen. There was no disturbance in the atmosphere. So something is figured out. And that's what I'm saying. That the too far away concept, now there's physics there that has been figured out. And we're eventually going to do it. I don't know the time span of it, but I don't think it's that far away. I don't, especially with the press release about this wormhole that was created up at Alphabet and the transfer of quantum information in a wormhole in a lab. That's pretty crazy. And how quick now the comment from the physicist, it's going to be a little bit before we have humans going through this. Yeah, okay, but once that is done and you have proof of concept and you've actually tested it, where do we take it to the next level? It's going to be quicker than we think. So the whole space is too big, everything is too far away idea, no, I just think that is completely off the table. Next, is there a possibility that everybody is transmitting? I mean, everybody is listening, but nobody's transmitting. Now, let's discuss what I mean. Stephen Hawking said, we don't need to be letting everybody know where we are. We don't know what we're exposing ourselves to. We have no idea what the intentions are. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. Maybe ET understands that too. Maybe they do. Maybe they want to be left alone. And maybe they just are not transmitting. Now, that doesn't mean that I am negating what has been seen in the skies and my own things. That's not what I'm referring to here. There has to be, when we look at the Fermi Paradox, an infinite amount of considerations here. So we have, where are the ships? Well, the ships are here. Where are the transmission? Where's the communications? I've just given you 30 different reasons why it's difficult for us to listen. We have to be at the right place at the right time to be able to do that. We have to know what we're listening for, right? And you also have to have somebody that's transmitting. So we have all of it. It just continues. It's just an onion that you continue to peel back the layers of. So somebody has to be transmitting for us to be listening. So there's probably, out of the hundreds of millions of ETCs out there, extraterrestrial civilizations, there's going to be a chunk of them that don't want to transmit, right? And then out of that, you have those that don't have a need to transmit. Pretty soon on this planet, we're not going to have anything transmitting off of here unless we are taking a radio dish and pointing it somewhere and turning it on. But radio and television signals naturally being projected off of planet Earth right now, they're so weak and so few right now. That's one thing. And only traveling at the speed of light. And the second thing is we're going to be close to none, eventually. So yeah, they may be listening, but we're not transmitting anything. And the other thing is you have to have a very, very specific part of space that you're pointing to to send a signal out. You're going to radiate a signal in all directions all the time, massive amounts of energy, and bursting it out there into space? No. We've never done that, and we're not going to do that. We would have to have something very specific. So we would naturally expect the same thing coming back. Are they transmitting, and are they transmitting in our direction, and how are they doing it? Right? It's easy to listen. We've got radio dishes all over the planet. We're listening to as much as we can all the time. It's a whole other thing going in the other direction. All right. Now, back to Hawking and his point. And many have made this point that although it may be a small part of the Milky Way, maybe communication like that just is completely dangerous. That most of the intelligent life out there is smart, mature. They're not hostile. They're not concerned with that. But some are. And the second that they detect what is going on, they turn their ships. Or we found this new planet. It's blue. Right? Third rock from their sun. Let's go. Right? And there may be that. So maybe reaching out there and saying hello is dangerous. Not to everything, but it only takes one. Now, my argument with that, and I keep coming back to this, if somebody really had bad intentions, I think we would know it by now. We 100% would know it. And we would, no, as a matter of fact, we wouldn't know it. It would happen so quick. It wouldn't be some mothership showing up here and, an interstellar war, and we're going to defend the planet with AR-15s and YF-22s. No, we wouldn't see it coming. All right, so there is that, but you just don't want that point, right? And so lighting a candle and saying, here we are, and attempting communication just may be dangerous. And it's something that is something to be considered. Now, here is another point. Maybe there is so much goodness in the Milky Way, in the rest of the universe. Maybe there's so much goodness, so much advanced knowledge, such a maturity out there, so much goodness out there, that Earth is being deliberately avoided. Now, before you go, huh? Wait, what? And it's kind of like the Prime Directive. But we're being monitored. They know where we're at. They see what's going on. They understand. They know that there's life here. They get that. They are sending probes here. They're scientifically investigating this planet and every other planet in the Milky Way. They're doing all of that, and they know where we are, but they're leaving us alone. That they want us to grow and to blossom on our own. Just maybe that is the case. We're being deliberately avoided. Would we do the same thing? And I think the short answer to that is yes. Would we do the same thing? What is the advantage? Now, we go to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as much as I love that film, and everybody knows, I just watched it last month, and I sent out the pictures of me watching it. I love that film. I'll watch it all the time for many reasons. But the concept that Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick did in the beginning of that film, with monoliths being deliberately buried on the moon and the monolith landing here on Earth, and to teach, and it's laid out in the book better than it is in the movie. In the book, a picture screen pops up, shows them how to make fire, shows them how to do things, how to make tools, and all of this comes on a screen, and it teaches. Right? Okay, so. Would we do something like that? I think that was an inaccurate part of Arthur C. Clarke. Now, this was an alien species coming to Earth, but us going in the other direction, would we do that? I don't think we would. Right, where we go to a planet, we find out that there's life there, we land, and we see a version of us, Homo sapien there, but they don't have fire yet. They're using bones for tools or for weapons, and we're gonna teach them how to make fire. Would we do that? Would we toss them a Bic lighter and show them that it's this easy and here? Would we do that? No, I don't. I think that we would leave them alone, but we would check in. We would monitor. We would check on the progress. I think that we would do that. And I think that a possibility is just that we are being deliberately avoided. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that eventually we become a player in the galactic part of the Milky Way, and we're trading and we're sharing and we're visiting planets and living the fifth element and doing those things. Yeah, that eventually. Are we ready for that now? No. I think we all know that. And they are waiting for us. Now, to get all metaphysical and conscious oriented and talk about our space brothers and we've got to live, raise our we got to get to 5D and we got to get to 6D. Well, okay, yeah, nah, but not really. We're just simply not ready for it. We're simply not ready. We're too wrapped up in war and weapons and guns and nuclear bombs and this and that. That's where we are right now. We're simply not ready for it. We've got to move on past it. Now, the other part when we are talking about the Fermi Paradox is if we back up and we take a look at where we are and what ET is seeing when they arrive here. And what Fermi was expecting, like there must be somebody out there that wants to shake our hands, and there's so much of that type of life out there that we have to be. No, I just don't think we're at that point. And even if now, I keep going back to the von Neumann probes because of what we are doing here in our own solar system. And what we would like to do with the rest of the Milky Way, and we're looking further and further out with space telescopes and tests and the Webb telescope. If that's what we are doing, right, and we are looking further and further out, then yes, we are being visited, and we're being visited a lot. The other part, though, that I was just getting ready to get into is contact of the third kind and the fourth kind, and what is it that people on this planet are experiencing right now? And that is another part that Fermi wasn't dealing with or was thinking about in concept in 1950. And certainly the Drake equation in 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, that was 1961. And so is there intentional contact going on right now with beings? Okay, now I've spent a big chunk of tonight with the Fermi Paradox talking about ET is already here, right? Now, beings, gray aliens, reptilians, mantid beings, right? Energy beings. Is this part of what is going on? I would say that Fermi, with what is the conversation that is going on today with contact and abductees and if cattle mutilations and everything else, that would change the conversation. And is this part of contact, right? Is this what is going on? So with that, I think, and I'm feeling pretty confident about this, that whatever life is possibly visiting this planet, that they have the ability to be in an interdimensional existence, that they are showing up and leaving in a dimension, in another parallel world, in something that physics and science is desperately trying to prove and to show us that may be the case. Now, what would Enrico Fermi and Ed Teller and others back in the day, Oppenheimer, with this concept? Because it's not a nuts and bolts situation. They were dealing with speed of light, a craft made of materials being driven by a physical being and arriving here on planet Earth. Where today, where we have millions of experiencers and abductees that speak of something else when it comes to contact. And that I think that the possibility is there that there is an interdimensional concept to all of this. And that's where we are today. So with that, with some of the sightings that is happening in the air, where are they? You know, up in the skies, where these craft, and I've seen them myself, appear and leave instantly. One of the best examples I have of this that I've seen was the Zorro Z. Now, this was, and I've described this to everybody before, but this is the concept that Fermi, this would change everything. He wouldn't have had the same conversation if he experienced what I experienced with a group of people. And this was, it appeared to me that this blue light, this blue-green, appeared in the sky. It lit up, went across the sky, did a Z, went this way, and then disappeared. But it took up a huge chunk of the sky. I don't know how many degrees across the sky. And it lasted for a second. It was about a second. I don't think it was 2 seconds long. It was very quick. But that appeared and then left. So what is that? So then if we go back to A Tear in the Sky, where in that film, it appears that a hole in the sky opens up and dozens of craft, and this is Carolyn Corey's new film. It's extraordinary that this was caught on video and film and measured, and the data was collected, but that this opening happened over Southern California and dozens of objects then appeared out of it and through it. This changes everything too. And how would Fermi then try to apply his statement to something like that? Because we're not talking about faster than light now. We're talking about something that's opening up in the sky. So yes, I feel that the Fermi paradox today does not apply. I don't think that the Drake equation applies today. The Drake equation numbers, when we plug in the data that we know now, how stars are formed, how many stars are in our Milky Way, and then tying to that, there's at least one planet. We have 8, 9, 10 planets. We can count Ceres, Planet X. 10 planets just in our star system. So if we've got 500 billion to 1 trillion stars in the Milky Way, and we truly honestly don't know, everything is guesswork, but somewhere in there, that we are now talking about 1 trillion or more planets just in the Milky Way, it upsets the Drake equation into another direction. The other part, some of the hard numbers for the Drake equation that, again, makes it not usable, is that we are guesstimating now that 1 out of 2, 1 out of 4 planets is rocky and Earth-like. And then how many are in the Goldilocks zone, which is something else that wasn't applied back with the Drake equation or Fermi's concept of things. 1950, we were the only planet. Today, we know that that is not the case. So the numbers, as you plug it in today into the Drake equation, now we're looking at a crazy, not 100 million, which is a big number, but we're talking about 40 billion, 100 billion Earth-like planets just in the Goldilocks zone in the Milky Way. So now how much of that and how does that spin off and what is in our galactic neighborhood? It just doesn't apply. So today, today, you can go and look at 75 or 100 different filters. Today I went through 25. I could have done 200 today. I went through 25, 30 filters. You can go and examine 75 to 100 filters on each level of the Fermi Paradox, trying to answer different sections of the Fermi Paradox, of which generally there's 5. And you have, say, 75 to 100 filters on each one of those, right? And each one of those filters of the 75 on the subset expands out. And all of it is of an old concept, and it doesn't apply today. It doesn't. All of the arguments were valid, and it was based on the current data that was around at that time, but it doesn't apply today. So there you go. Let me see here. Let me see if I can get to some of your points. Drake should have made it. See. I was all about this from Skyhawk. I was all about. Let me pull this down. This is actually good. 50 years ago, I was all about nuts and bolts from a galaxy far, far away. I have evolved. And I used to do the same thing. And I used to make these comments, and I used to go into different groups on the internet, especially in the 90s, where I would make those comments. And it's not that long ago, 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, where I would say, where there, with everything that I have seen and with everything that has been witnessed and everything that has been talked about, there must be a highway that is bumper to bumper, traffic jammed, coming to Earth. And why can't we point telescopes out there and detect all of these ships, these flying saucers, these craft that are approaching Earth? I mean, they're just flooding in from everywhere. Why don't we see that? Yeah, I used to be completely nuts and bolts. I was that way, absolutely. And I used to make this argument. And here's the thing. Responses that I used to get to my points were so, especially now, were so juvenile. I mean, nobody knew. Nobody had a grasp. Nobody, and the whole interdimensional, the whole faster than light, the whole folding of space or wormholes, and they were kind of discussed, but we didn't understand like we do today. And those parts of these conversations were never brought into the debate, not like they are today. And I have changed. I have completely changed. Completely changed. I am absolutely convinced that if you're out there and you're a million light years away and this is where you want to go, you just do it. You're not spending a million years traveling. You're not. You're spending a nanosecond. You're just there. I am sure they have all different ways how they maneuver in and out of different dimensions. I think that, and see, now here we have, this is Stargazer. Thank you for that. Which goes back to my point. It was such a fundamental, basic way of arguing these points, 50 years ago, 25 years ago. We just did. Now, today, I think that everybody understands these concepts. It's a different thing. We know that, look, this is, if we are going to take, let's talk about Bob Lazar. Let's take Bob Lazar at his word, right? So he goes out to the sport model. It's floating, and he goes outside and he sees the door, remember? And they go, okay, dude, go in there and check it out. So he goes out, he climbs in. And what does he describe? There's a chair. Okay, what else? Well, that was about it. There's a flat floor. The 3 drive units were underneath. The 3 gravity drives. Okay, but what else? Well, I mean, that was. Now, are you telling me, this is where we have advanced? Are you telling me that dude is going to sit in that chair for 10,000 years? You don't have a pool table. You don't have a pool. You don't have a bed. You don't have a bedroom. You don't have a stereo system. You don't have pictures on the wall. You don't have a dining room table. You've got nothing but a chair, and you're going to sit in this tiny little flying saucer that is 20 feet across, and you're gonna span time in the universe in that for a million years just to get here to Earth. I mean, how do you get up and stretch your legs? What do you do? Where do you sleep? Well, if we take Bob at his word, and that is the case, it's because he sat down in that chair for a second. Yeah. That goes with any of this, because if you're gonna go beyond that and travel this way, you are going to be on a ship that has a city, schools, hospitals, stores, apartments, houses, homes, parks, and you're going to live on that for thousands of years. You're going to be on a colony ship, and by the time you get to where you're going, you've been dead for 10,000 years. It's your great cloned grandchildren that are going to arrive at that planet. You're not going to see it. You're just there when it departs. So when we shrink this down, we're talking about the sport model. Bob said there was 9, right? He's walking down the hallway. He sees 9 different ships. Any one of those, it's parked in a hangar. It's a tiny little craft. It is not out there for a million years going across the universe, in a straight line for a million years with one chair. No, that ship is going blip, blip. That's it. Let's see here. Hold on. What's this, Lisa? Lisa Davy says, I just realized the ship I saw was gigantic. It showed up 1 light at a time, but it was 3 lights and a triangle shape, huge ship, NorCal up in Bear Valley. Oh, I don't know where Bear Valley is. I haven't seen my triangle yet. Well, I saw that one little one, but I haven't seen my triangle yet. Let's see. I love this. This is great. Got a few minutes left. Our set, this is Aliens, UFOs, and Spiritual Space Warfare. That's a good screen name. Our set of quantum is at the bottom. They are there. The others are the first spiritual, then the etheric is the next highest frequency range, and that's spiritual. So, and so on up. Okay. All right. You guys ever see the movie AI? I agree with this, Aliens. It's pretty good. Not old Fermi. Have you guys seen the movie AI? That's a Kubrick, Steven Spielberg production. Spielberg finished it for Kubrick as he was at the end of his life. The end of now AI, the movie itself, right? It's artificial intelligence. The kid's a robot, doesn't know it, or he is a robot and he doesn't know it. And Jude Law's a robot, but he doesn't know it, or maybe he does. And they grow, they do this thing, and it says life journey together, and the kid robot gets abandoned by his family, left in the woods. It's heartbreaking. You cry. All right. And that's the concept of the movie. And it's hard to watch the first 2 hours of the movie, but it's the last 15 minutes that are so special because the kid, the AI, the bot, he's in his robot car, and it sinks to the bottom of the ocean and near what looks like New York or something like that. But he's dead. I mean, his batteries, right? For thousands of years. And Earth goes through this transformation, and now it's an ice age. So what was a city above is now frozen under, sheets of ice. But who shows up? E.T. checking out planet Earth, right? So you see, and this is what was so great. The ship, I don't have anything like it. The ship is a cube. See this cube? It's like a dice. Do I have a dice? I don't have a dice. Ship is a cube. Square, going across the ice. Pulls up, you see the skyscraper sticking out, the tops of the skyscrapers out of the ice. Cube goes on down in a crack in the ice. And goes down into the water, boom, 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 and pulls up next to the car with the AI kid. Right, his batteries have worn down. They rescue him. They fire him back up, and he sees E.T. And E.T. is not physical. E.T. is energy. Now, it's got a head, got a body, got arms, but it's this thing, it's this concept. And I think that Spielberg had it on the money. The ship is not some crazy alien craft like Independence Day. It's a cube. It's a cube. E.T. is an energy being. And he tells, speaking with his mind telepathically, speaks to the AI kid, says, so I can grant you a wish. What would you like? I can do one thing. Kid says, hey, I want my mom back. And the way that you have to go watch the movie and stuff. And not to give anything away, but it's that concept of what E.T. is and the ship and everything else that I think that Spielberg had it on the money. So when Space Alien just made this comment here about going up and it's this and that, and it's spiritual and they get that's exactly the way that Spielberg projected this. That these the E.T. has evolved into this spiritual light being, not mean, not evil, not anything. As a matter of fact, he meets up with this little robot kid who he knows is a robot, says, I'll grant you a wish. What do you want? And I there's something to that's it. I'm not, and if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's just an amazing movie. So Alien, what was your name? Let me scroll back here. What was your name? Alien Light Being 234. I'd kill for an Oak Shannon shout out so I can shoot some whiskey and call it a night. Oak Shannon is the man. I've seen AI creepy movie. I didn't think it was creepy. No, I didn't think it was creepy. And I got to tell you, I cried. I cried every time that first 10 minutes of the movie ripped me apart to the point where, you know what I was doing when I watch AI? Fast forward the scene where she abandons her son in the woods and runs away. I can't see that. I fast forward and I wait for him to hook up with Jude Law. That's what I do. You haven't seen a triangle. I've seen one flying above me and at tree level. No sound at all. No, I haven't seen. I haven't. I photographed a triangle. I did know it was a triangle when I photographed it. But have I seen a triangle? No. Jamie, I'm fully jealous with that. I've had so many friends of mine that have talked about this. I've told you, my neighbor kid, Mikey, had his sighting here in Palmdale. But no, I have not. I've got this vision. I'm manifesting this. I swear I have. I've now dreamt it. I've thought about it so much that I walk out on my upstairs patio off of my bedroom. I walk outside at night and I look up and then this black triangle flies over the house. I'm manifesting that. It's going to happen. I'm manifesting it, man. I am working this one. The universe is going to hook me up. Let's see. Delicious flower. I experienced a low-flying triangle over my car. Scared me a lot. It was huge. Wow. Where'd you see it? I have not. Jimmy, do you think, let's see, this is from Damn It, Janet. Do you think that AI can become sentient with emotions? Yeah. I think it's right there right now. Have you guys done Chat GBT? Have you guys done that yet? You guys check that out? All right. Well, that's there. That's it's about to take your job. A movie came out in 2001. Yeah, I think you're talking about AI. Let's see here. What's this? Stargazer. I've seen a big triangular craft. They are ours. They can hover and they are massive. No, I haven't. I'm waiting. Oh, Zenzabel coming up with the AI facts list here. The screenplay by Spielberg and screen story by Ian Watson were based on the 1969 short story Super Toys Last All Summer Long by Brian Aldiss. All correct. And then Kubrick got the rights to it, and he started working on the production of it, got sick. Hey, that was the whole story back then, that Kubrick's next movie is AI, right? And we were all excited about it, and that was the secret project. And he couldn't finish it. And he calls in Steve. I believe he reached out to Steve. Maybe Steve reached out to him and said, hey, man, are you going to be able to do this? And if not, can I step in? But that's what happened. And Kubrick handed off the project to Spielberg so he could finish it. But yeah, let's see. What's this? Had my UFO sighting so terrifying, haven't been home for 3 years. Let's see here. This is great. My fiance saw a triangle at a telephone pole height with all types of hieroglyphics on it. Really? See, I want that sighting. I haven't had that sighting. The best, the daylight, the beer can, that was crazy, but it was 14 miles away. It was big. But who knows what was written on the side of that. Let's see, Carol Ann. I'm getting everybody coming in with their sightings now. 1956, London, England. My cousin and I playing badminton over the garden wall. He had a daylight sighting of a UFO hung in the sky for 15 minutes, no sound, and winked out. Let's see here, Joe Kryptonite. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I went to go to Cal State Northridge from Chicago. I was on a rooftop and saw my first UFO. Bright light up, very high. It would start moving back and forth and gone. Cal State Northridge, one of the coolest colleges in all of the United States, and it's right down the street. Let's see here. Jimmy, Dr. Gary Nolan said in a recent interview on Event Horizon that the advanced civilization here on Earth are indifferent to us, not good or bad. All right. You guys want me to leak some information for you? Are you guys ready? Right here, Fade to Black, Monday night. Dr. Gary Nolan. Yeah, he's going to be with us on Monday night. So, man, we've got an amazing week lined up next week, too. And Monday night, it is Dr. Gary Nolan. Timoth Man. I saw what I think was a black triangle at eye level traveling in front of the mountains above Palm Desert, and it simply vanished broad daylight. Wow, everybody here has got black triangles. I saw two small triangles hooked together at treetop level near downtown Salida. Is that Colorado? Wow. Wow, you guys. Wow. This is I can go through everybody here. No one believes what I saw, and it drives me mad. Yeah, this is great. And yeah, I haven't had mine. I'm manifesting it, though. That thing's going to happen. Yeah, the universe is just going to come back to me and go, yeah, church, it's about time. Yeah, you need to experience this. So with that, I'm going to go start my weekend. And let's see, Willow, Yellowstone, Mythic Quest tomorrow night. Man, the last two episodes of Rick and Morty. Whew, man, so good. So there you go. I'm going to go start my weekend. And like I said, I just leaked it. Monday right here, Dr. Gary Nolan, right here on Fade to Black. We got a great week lined up next week. Fade to Black is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Everybody have a great, safe, fun, amazing weekend. I'll see you on Monday right here with Dr. Gary Nolan. Be safe. Go Backley Tappy.